Okay, so a tutorial for the 80% speedrun of Summoner. Seemed like it'd be a good idea to make this just because there are a lot of little things in the run that are not readily apparent. That are not readily apparent to someone just watching the run, but may not be familiar with the game itself. I'm going to start here before I get anything with the options. The sound, you can set the volume however you want. This, do whatever you want. Solo mode, confirm you want to be off, just because you don't want that pop-up every time you're going in and out of solo mode. Combat chaining you want on manual, because it can mess you up a little bit in a few different places in the run if it's set to auto. Invert camera, that just changes when you use the arrow keys to turn your camera left or right. It just inverts that. And that's personal preference. I've never really messed around with camera speed. I guess you can set that however you want as well. Conversational camera, I don't think it matters. I have it on never. I just don't like it. Multiplayer doesn't matter. The detail levels, for the most part, don't matter because this game being from 2001 on any modern system, your performance is not going to be any different no matter what your settings are. The only setting here that I am going to give a suggestion for is the fog plane distance. I'm going to recommend you set that to low. And that's because in this game there's a certain maximum distance away from your character that you can click in order to move. And having the fog plane distance on low, you can click pretty much as far away as you can actually see. That's just a really handy visual aid. And then all the rest of this is personal preference. And when you're done making your settings, you have to click the check mark, not the X button or escape, because it'll only save if you hit the check mark. So with all that said, we're just going to start a new game. Now there is a load remover, which doesn't count the time in the cutscenes, so you don't necessarily have to skip this right away, but I'm going to. Okay, so start out. I'm just going to run through a few mechanics. You've got your different camera modes, and that's changed by pressing F12. There's auto, high, and low. Auto is going to have you in low camera most of the time, unless you're getting into combat, then it's going to automatically switch to high. And there are some locations in the game where it will force one camera angle or the other. Usually that's someplace forcing the high camera angle. All of your movement is going to be based on the mouse. You either click on a point and you'll run to it, or you click and hold and the character will run towards your mouse cursor. So from your starting point, you just hit escape to clear that dialog box. And then I'm going to try to click immediately somewhere over here, because that's where I need to go. And I think I'm just going to start addressing mechanics as I come to them. So right there, I'm just using the single point click so he can run, and then I can mess with other settings, like I'm turning my camera here just to have a more convenient camera angle. And when I get up here, you can see there's sort of the scripted event where this enemy is going to kill this NPC. I know it's kind of behind the keyboard display, but they're over there. So what I'm going to do when I get close is I'm going to quick save and quick load, which is going to cancel that animation. And to note, the hotkeys for quick saving and quick loading are holding Control S for quick save and Control L for quick load. You can also press spacebar to do like an in-game pause, and I'm going to be using that a lot throughout this tutorial. So now this enemy has canceled the animation of killing the NPC. He's going to come and attack me because I'm nearby and a higher priority target. So what I'm going to do is click on him to start combat. Then I'm going to immediately open and close my inventory. And what that's going to do is, when you get into combat, there's an animation of your character drawing their weapon, but going in and out of the inventory menu cancels that, and then you can immediately start combat. The next thing, there's a lot right at the start here. Also, that guy dies, but then he gets back up, it's fine. The way I'm going to do combat here, well, normally with combat, this is what happens. You get a back and forth if you just do nothing, and you can see the little chain symbol appearing above my head. That's what the combat chaining is. If I right click, you get a chain, or if your chaining is set to auto, that'll happen automatically. Wait, this is pretty slow. What I'm actually going to do instead, I'm going to hit escape to cancel this text box. Do one swing, I'm going to click away and then back on the enemy. And that's just going to allow me to kind of cancel the cooldown in between my attacks and swing faster. It might be tempting to pick up this item or any items that you see this early. You do not want to do that. It might seem a little counterintuitive because this run we need a lot of money later in the game to buy spells. And it would seem like, well, we can sell this for money, but there's reasons you don't want to pick it up, and I'll get to that very shortly. Once that enemy dies, there's a short pause, then that burning log disappears, you get another text box, just cancel out of that, and then you run up this way. And there's some things I should talk about with the different camera angles. When you have the high camera, when you're running, you're going to want your mouse cursor, if you're doing click and drag, to be as far towards the edge of the screen as you can get it. But if you're on auto or low, you only want it to be, maybe halfway up. Because if you go all the way up, the running speed is slower than if it's down here. I'm not entirely sure why, but it is. And you also want to have pretty close attention to what your camera is set to, because if your camera angle is set to auto and it changes like that, then your mouse position will shift because of the camera angle, and that will change your running speed. So that's just something you need to be aware of most of the time. Also, by having the low camera angle, back where I was running up, I'll do that again, actually. It was a very fast kill. I like to use the low camera angle when I'm running up this way, because the enemy at the top of the hill is going to start moving as soon as your camera can see him. And if you're using the high camera angle, that means he won't start moving until you're almost on top of him. If you have the low camera angle, he starts moving much earlier, and now he's not in the way when you're trying to run past. Then for the second enemy, who is right up just past this hay bale thing, I'm going to try to run to his left, and that's going to bait him to run this way, so that I can sneak around to the right, which is the direction I'm actually trying to go. And there's reasons we don't want to get hit by any enemy, because if you get hit by an enemy while you're moving, I'll show it right here. I'll try to show it right here if the guy will take a swing at me. You get the slow status effect, and of course that makes you run very slow. It wears off pretty quickly, but you still don't want to have it happen. Right here at these boxes, there's an item in this box that we want to collect, because we're going to immediately sell it once we get to the town. And the hotkey to interact with the nearest object is either X or middle mouse button. And then we want to cancel out of this window as quickly as we can, so you could either come and click it, or you can just hit escape. Here there are kind of some obstacles in a weird path. I want to adjust my camera and my camera direction, so I'm going to click on a point that I want to run to, and then adjust those things while the character is automatically running. So something I'm coming up to here, there's a forced dialogue with this guy by the bridge, but we can skip that. So, what's going to happen is you'll see the text box appear above his head, or a little indicator appear above his head. And once I get close, and then once I get to about here, it's going to disappear, which means I'm being dragged into the conversation with him. At that point, if I quick save, quick load, it'll skip that entirely. Just like that, we don't have to talk to this guy. And I'm going to click anywhere on this island. We're going to run into a cutscene trigger, and then I'm going to immediately skip that cutscene. This is sort of the first boss fight of the game. I'm just going to run past him to start, but I'm also going to use the enter key, or I have one of my side mouse buttons mapped as an enter key, so that's what I'm going to use. The enter key is the manual draw or sheathe your weapon button. And then I'm going to open and close the inventory to skip the animation. And then again, there's an item in this crate. I'm going to use X and escape to pick it up. I'm going to try to anyway. Let's try that again, all at normal speed. And then I'm going to stand right here on the slope of this rock, because there's another mechanic that comes into play here that has to do with your damage values. So a lot of the things in this game are sort of based off of D&D, so it's like a die roll how much damage you're going to do, but you can affect that by certain other conditions. So if you hit an enemy from behind them, you get a 15% damage bonus, or if you hit them from higher ground, you get a 25% damage bonus. Camera back to where it was. So that enemy's going to chase me here, and I'm going to do the same combat trick as I did for the first enemy. You can see the little 25% appeared above my head to show that I was getting the extra damage. And that he's also getting a damage debuff because he's standing on lower ground. This is extremely bad luck I'm getting right here because I haven't hardly hit him. Okay, and again, it's tempting to pick up the item. The only time you want to pick up anything that this enemy drops is if it's just a pile of coins. Anything else, you want to leave it on the ground, and then you just run to the loading zone there, and you exit into the world map. Okay, so from there, just going to run to the first area. Now, you might be wondering, am I just super familiar with where this confirmation button is going to be? Yes and no. There's a little trick. I've got a little corner of a sticky note on my monitor that tells me where this is going to be, and that can help save a second here and there. Get into the main town, and I'm just going to do click and drag. I'm going to have auto camera. Again, there's going to be an item in one of these crates that I want to pick up. And then I'm going to run to this first merchant here, and I'm going to sell everything. So there's a mechanic coming into play right here as soon as I leave this area that's not immediately apparent. But you can see right now my inventory is completely empty because I sold everything that's, not equipped. But when you have a totally empty inventory when you load a new area, the game gives you 3 health tonics. And that's kind of important right here, because those sell for, I think, 350 gold each, and that's quite a bit this early in the game. So with that, I'm going to run to this merchant here, and I'm going to immediately sell those 3 health tonics. Then I'm going to buy a revive scroll, and I'm going to buy 4 Meteor Scrolls. Right, the next little bit here is pretty straightforward. Just going to be running through a few areas. And like I mentioned earlier, the fog plane distance is telling me roughly how far away I can click and successfully move. So if I click farther away than where that's showing, I wouldn't be able to move. So then we run over here, and we get a cutscene, and this is one of the only unskippable cutscenes in the game.
That's Lord Yago to you. Well, then Lord Yago it is. I have urgent business. business? What business? Will you sell him turnips? Has he borrowed your plow?
So if you are watching this video sometime after the fact and are just trying to learn the speedrun, you can go ahead and skip forward about 2.5, 3 minutes to not have to watch this cutscene, because there's really not much to do here.
Go or I'll spill your blood on the palace gate.
So hello Oni, how's it going?
What's wrong?
I am indeed playing Summoner, and have been for a couple of weeks.
Who are you?
Follow me. I know a way in.
What are you talking about?
Come on. I'll explain when we get there. The guards are watching.
So this is your way into the palace? Through the sewers?
These tunnels date back to the City of Gods. They'll take you anywhere in Linnell, if you know the way.
I'm not going in there unless you tell me who you are and what you want.
As you wish. My name is Felice. I work for Tancred.
Tancred? The Prince of Beggars?
Yeah, that's the one. Prince of Beggars and King of Fleas.
How do I know you won't cut my throat down there, or stick a knife in my back? Why should I even trust you?
I wouldn't trust me if I were you, but you want to get in the palace, and so do I.
But why are you here? What do you want from me?
There's something I need to get from the palace.
But why are you helping me?
Because I need your help. The sewers are dangerous. I can't risk it alone.
You're making a mistake. I'm a farmer, not a warrior.
But your need is as great as mine. Let's go.
Alright, so we're past the cutscene, and now there are a few more mechanics coming into play, which is why we're getting another tutorial. Just going to go ahead and skip that. So there are two different party members, and you can swap between them. A couple different ways. You can just click on them like that, you can click on their picture, or you can press the tab key. Right now there's only two, so it's just tab to switch back and forth. And there's more than two. It's tab to switch forward and shift tab to switch backwards. So if you're doing this run on Steam, you're going to want to turn off your Steam overlay because shift tab is going to be a problem. I like to do this area as Fleece, just initially. There are a couple other mechanics I should probably discuss here. We've mentioned that you can, for movement, you can either click and just run to that point, or you can click and drag. And it's not extremely apparent right now, but click and drag is slower form of movement than just clicking on a single point once you have more than one party member. And that's because when you're doing that, the game defaults your entire party's movement speed to your slowest party member. Both of these two are the fastest party members you can get, so it's not much of a difference in speed, but it is noticeable, and once you notice it, you can't really stop noticing it. What else? Oh, you can also, there's also solo mode, which you can get by clicking on solo on the bottom left, or the hotkey for that is H. And that's going to be important because when you're in solo mode, for one, click and drag to move will give you the full movement speed again. But also, as it would make sense, it splits up your party, and the other character will not follow you. So, we'll run through the sewers. I'm also going to do the thing here where I draw my weapon, use the inventory to skip that animation. And we're going to just do the normal run through the sewers. Now this enemy can be in a few different places. I'm going to try to have both Fleece and Joseph get past it without actually fighting it, but it looks like Joseph got stuck. So I'm going to switch to solo mode and leave him back there. We're going to have to switch to solo mode anyway because Fleece needs to go to the left and Joseph needs to go to the right. Hopefully he doesn't die. This has not been a very good sewers. Okay, so Fleece went left. Joseph has to go this way. I'm just going to tell him to run down there. I'm going to switch back to Fleece and have her run up here. There's a bit of a puzzle in the sewers the first time you go through. That involves this golem here. Okay, so I've clicked on the golem. That's going to initiate dialogue. But my character has to put away her weapon before the dialogue starts, so I'm going to use the inventory thing again. Skip that animation. And tell him to open gate 1. Switch back to Joseph. Tell him to run through. I'm going to say open gate B1. Switch back. And then I'm going to have Fleece die by using 3 Meteor Scrolls. Now why do I need Fleece to die? Well, you've seen earlier in the run that there are these yellow lines that are loading zones to get to the next area. When you're in a town or a non-hostile area, you don't need your entire party to be at the exit to leave, but when you're in a hostile area, you need your entire party to be at the exit to leave, or rather, you need your entire surviving party to be at the exit in order to leave. So we can skip having Fleece run all the way over here by just having her die back there and only have Joseph make it to the end. Now there's another skip for a boss fight up here, but we need both characters to be alive, which is why I bought the single revive scroll. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to click on a point up here somewhere before that little change in the angle of the ground. Because if I run too far forward, the spell just won't happen. Like, you have to be close enough for that to actually successfully revive Fleece. Here I'm playing around with my camera angle a bit just to try and get the best sight lines to run where I'm trying to run. Okay, so there's a trigger somewhere around here. That if the active character touches that trigger, it's going to start the boss fight. And the keywords there are active character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell Joseph to run to the far side of this room, and then I'm going to switch my active character to Fleece. I'm also going to switch back into solo mode just for convenience. And once he's mostly across there, I'm going to use this last Meteor Scroll to have Fleece die again. And then switch back to Joseph on the other side of the boss fight, and I can just walk out without having to fight it. Now that's going to put me into this area. Now there's a forced dialogue with Joseph normally, but if you quick save and quick load immediately, we can skip that. So, I did not successfully skip it. You see, if I had managed to get the quick load in time, I'd be standing like this, with my camera turned this way because that's the direction my character was facing. So while I'm in that loading screen, I'm going to try to put my mouse over here so that I can immediately start running this way. I'm just using X to interact with that hidden door there. And then right here, there's a guard. This guard will catch me if he sees me and throw me back into the start of this area. However, if I click on an NPC that has dialogue, for whatever reason, when you're running towards dialogue, the guard just does not see you. So what I'm going to do from behind the guard is click on that NPC. I'm going to run past. Now I still can't get out of this room without the guard seeing me, so I run over this way a bit so that I'm close enough. Click on that character. And this one gives me the servant's outfit. So instead of finishing talking to her, I'm just going to hit escape to close out of the rest of that dialogue. And then I'm going to go ahead and equip the entire servant's outfit. And with that equipped, the guard now doesn't care that I'm here. Or well, he yells at me, but he doesn't throw me out, and that's the important part. Just gonna run up here. This door is closed, so I hit X when I get close to it to interact and open it, and hopefully get through without having to slow down. There's all kinds of rooms here you can explore and talk to NPCs and steal things, but not doing that right now. This is a speedrun. Just up the top of these stairs. Yeah, this has some gold in it that I'm going to take. I'm going to run around this way. And one thing to be aware of with this guard, for whatever reason, some of his, like his vision cone just has collision. So that's just something to watch out for. Because it can be really annoying if you get stuck on that vision cone and can't reach this door. I can't actually open this door because I didn't go and pick up the key. But you can see Iago, this character Iago, is selectable even though I'm on the other side of the door, and I can talk to him through the wall. Now, unfortunately, there's no way to skip this dialogue, so you just have to spam left click to get through it. You get a cutscene and then more dialogue. So I'm just skipping through this dialogue. I know what the last line I say is going to be, and I still don't understand. But right after that, it's going to put up the end, and then another one of these. I'm just going to immediately skip that by hitting escape. But we're now introduced to the mechanic, which is summoning, and we've been given the Ring of Darkness. I'm going to go ahead and equip that now, just so that it starts, building up experience, and the summon actually has a bit more health if the ring is equipped. Then I'm going to start running this way. And then I'm going to click on the ground down here. That's going to get Joseph to run down the staircase. I don't actually want to go over there, but it gets me moving down the staircase quickest. So now we just get a bunch of running. Alright, so I've also gained the ability to summon, and that's going to be important in the first real dungeon of the game. Again, a lot of running around in areas like this is just managing the camera to get the best sight lines to run where you need to run. I mentioned before that clicking on a single point rather than click and drag is faster, but I'm going to click and drag in that area because for the most part the sight lines are really bad for clicking very far away. I tried to click through that window, which would have taken me to about here. I'm going to change my camera angle to low. I'm going to go this way. Another version of the route would send Fleece sort of the other direction to go and pick up an item that we can sell, but it's not necessary to do that. Again, just some camera angle shenanigans. Now, I did just mention sending Fleece off a different direction, which you would think I was done with solo mode, but when you're in a town or a non-hostile area, solo mode does not work. What I'm going to do instead, I'm going to send Joseph running one way, I'm going to send Fleece another way, and as long as you only click on single points with each of them, they will both go their separate directions until they reach their destination, then they will turn and follow your active party member. So it can be quite a juggling act to get your two characters going the direction you want them to go when the game doesn't want to let you separate them. But it can be done, it just takes a little bit of practice. Alright, so I'm back at this NPC, and because at the end of the sewers I had used up all of the items in my inventory, the game gave me another 3 health tonics, and I'm going to sell all 3 of them. I'm going to come back here and buy 8 icicle runes. I'm going to scroll down, I'm going to buy 4 Blizzard Scrolls. And then I'm going to spend however much money I have left, because it's not always consistent. I'm going to spend however much money I have left on Inferno Scrolls. Now, the game doesn't give you a way to quickly buy these, it just lets you buy them as fast as you can click, up to a point. And so what I'm going to do To buy these quickly is I'm going to move my left hand over onto my mouse, and we use one finger from each hand and alternate them on my left mouse button to click as fast as I can. Or rather, not exactly as fast as I can. I could click faster, but there's sort of a maximum click rate that the game will actually recognize. I'm just going to hit escape to get out of that menu and switch back to Joseph, who's running to the exit. And again, just more camera angle tricks. I want my camera angle to be set to low or auto in the next area. I'm going to set it to that before I leave this area. On the world map, there are random encounters, but the minimum amount of time you can be on the world map before you get a random encounter is 20 seconds, and the run to this first area is just slightly less than 20 seconds, so there's nothing you really need to do about it. But you can avoid random encounters in other ways. You can spam quick save while you're on the world map, and then if you get into a random encounter, you just quick load, then you're back out on the world map and you've got another 20 seconds before you have to worry about another encounter. Alternatively, you can do quick saves when you're getting close to 20 seconds, then you just do quick save, quick load real quick, and then you avoid random encounters entirely. What I'm going to do once I get close to the place I'm going is I'm just going to click on the ground and I'm going to get ready to click on the confirm button. I have gotten the final summon before, actually. Let me just skip these cutscenes, run this way. There's an item in one of these crates I'm going to loot. And then we run over here. So we just talk to that golem to get up to the upper part of this area. And like I mentioned, clicking on a single point is faster than clicking and dragging since I have more than one party member. So that's why I'm doing a lot of that here. It's going to become more important once I get the next party member, who is in here, because this next party member has the slowest movement speed out of anyone in the game. When we get this forced dialogue, we could quick save, quick load to avoid it, but we can also just hit escape to get out of it. Now there's also an item. I'm not sure where exactly it is in here. It's in that crate. I'm just going to hit X and escape to grab it. It's a citrine, and we want that because it sells for quite a bit of money, especially this early in the game. So we talk to this guy, we ask him about a key to the crypt. Once the red line of dialogue shows up, we can just hit escape to get out of it. And we're going to run this way. Some annoying single point clicking to get up those stairs. And that's one of those areas I had mentioned earlier that has a forced camera angle. You can only have the high camera angle when you're over there. And so a few more things we're going to loot in here is a bookshelf with an icicle tract. Over here, I think this one's Fire Arrow. Yep. Then I believe there's a Revive Scroll. Oh, Tome of Revive over there. And then this bookcase is the hidden door that we needed the key for. And we go into the Catacombs. So as soon as I load into the Catacombs, I'm going to hit tab twice, switch to this character. I'm going to go into solo mode, and I'm going to hit X to interact with this statue. And I run over here. Hit X to interact with this statue. And that solves the puzzle of this room, which opens the catacombs themselves. And I'm going to switch to low camera. Alright. So the catacombs are one of the more difficult splits for the entire speedrun. I'm going to tell Joseph to run this way. I'm going to hit enter and use my inventory to draw my weapon. And once I move a little bit forward, I'm going to take myself... I'm going to take myself out of solo mode so that the other two characters will start following me again, but they'll be a little ways behind me. So right now I'm near these two enemies, and I don't want to have these enemies around. What what I'm going to do is open my inventory. I'm going to use Inferno Scroll. Now, unfortunately, I have to right-click and go to use. I'm going to use 5 of them because that's going to most likely kill these. It looks like it only killed 1 of them, unfortunately. And these 2 are in a weird position. I'm going to do that trick again. This archer has a bit less health, so I'm only going to use 4. I'm going to keep running this way. Now these 3 enemies I'm going to use 5 again. And on these 2 enemies I'm going to use 5. Or, well, one of them kind of ran away, but... Now, ideally, Joseph would have gained a level somewhere around there, and that would confirm to you that most of those enemies actually died. But next, you can actually click really far away and successfully run in this area. So what I did here is I clicked down there somewhere, and I'm going to hit S, which opens up the skills menu. So from here, I'm going to go to this tab, Creation, Summon, then you click on Summon once, and that gives you this menu. This is like a drop-down menu that shows you all your summons. We only have this one right now. So you click and drag that over to here. And this is sort of your hotbar for activated abilities, and it's controlled by the number keys 1 through 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm putting the summon on the 1 key because I'm going to want to be able to summon that pretty quickly later in this dungeon. Alright, so here I'm going to use an Icicle rune, because this archer is a problem. Now, for whatever reason, the archers in the rest of this dungeon away from the entrance have significantly less health than the ones by the entrance, so a single Icicle rune is going to kill him. And we need to kill him because if he hits me while I'm running, we get that slow status effect. So here I'm going to tell Joseph to run way over there, and I'm going to switch to Rosalind. I'm going to hit R, which brings up the character menu, and I'm going to switch her to melee away from healing, because she can cause some problems later in the run if she's trying to heal and won't run towards the rest of the party. Now, really, in a speedrun, you're not going to be using pause to do all of this. I'm just doing it so that I actually have time to explain all of it. So realistically, you'd be switching to Rosalind and doing that while Joseph is continuing to run up this way, which is why I clicked way over there to tell him to run over there. I'm also going to turn my camera slightly to the right. As for one, I'm going to use an Inferno Scroll as I run by this enemy so that he can't take a swing at me. The spell will kind of stun him out of that. And then there's an archer right on the other side of this rock that I'm going to want to hit with a spell as soon as I can. You could also see there one of these spellcasting enemies threw a fireball at me, but as long as you're running the entire time as you go past them, you're out of range for the spell to actually hit you. And there's a second archer there. A whole bunch of them right around this area. They're the only ones we're really concerned about killing right now.
I grow
So
powerful.
from about this point, I can tell Joseph to run way up there. I'm going to switch to Fleece. And I'm going to tell her to start running up here because I want to make sure she doesn't get stuck on anything. Because we need Joseph and at least one other party member to make it into this kind of crossroads area up ahead. And Fleece fell pretty far behind. But here I'm using that hotkey summon to summon right there. So there's this spellcasting animation where Joseph raises his arms and then lowers them again. As soon as his arms are down, you can open a menu and close it to skip the rest of his part of the animation, and it will allow you to move immediately. So as soon as I switch back to Joseph from telling Fleece to run this way, I'm going to switch into solo mode. And I'm going to have Joseph run this way and grab this enemy's attention so that it follows him for a while and doesn't attack the summon or Fleece when she runs by. So I'm just going to tell Joseph to run way over there. Switch to the summon, tell it to run way over there. Switch to Fleece, and tell her to run way up there. Now, there are a lot of enemies along these pathways, but realistically, nobody should end up in combat, because if your active character is far enough away from the enemies, their AI shouldn't actually react to your characters. Unfortunately, that didn't really pan out with Joseph, but that is what it is. So if everything's going well in this split, you should be able to have Joseph run up to this point, and then you can click way up there, and then switch to another character. I also told the summon to run up to here before I switch back to Joseph. This is part of the puzzle solution for the dungeon. I just interact with that. I'm also going to come over here and grab the icy dagger. I didn't actually want Fleece to stop running, but... Oh yeah, Joseph ran here. He's gotten past most of the enemies in this dungeon. Now I'm going to tell him to run up there and switch characters. So that was unfortunate. If everything's going well, Fleece would have been past these archers when I switched back to her. This isn't like a run-over situation. You've still got plenty of runes, so Icicle on that. You've got Icicle Tract that you picked up. You just do that, kill off the archers, and keep on going. And tell Fleece to run up there. I'm going to switch back to Joseph since he's past the enemies in this room, and finish off the puzzle. He's going to open the door at the end of this area. And then tell Fleece to run to this bridge, which is going to hit a cutscene. And this cutscene is going to teleport all of the party members to the end of the dungeon. Except for the summon, who's going to continue to stand way over here. And that's going to be important in just a moment. It also automatically, the cutscene automatically switches your perspective to Joseph, which we don't quite want right now. We want to be on Fleece. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of these Blizzard Scrolls that I bought. I'm going to place it right here, and then I'm going to tell Fleece to run to this spot. So this spell should kill this boss in about 2 ticks of damage. He's very weak to it for whatever reason. And it's also going to start killing Fleece, which is important, because as soon as I tell her to run up there, I'm going to switch to Joseph, and I'm going to start having him running towards the exit of the dungeon. Okay. Okay, for whatever reason the boss didn't die to that. Should die to fire arrow? No, he took no damage from fire arrow. Oh, there he died. That's weird. Sometimes that happens. I don't know why. We want to loot him because we want the precise falchion and the sword of spirits and the sharp dagger. It's not totally consistent, the items you get from him. There's some randomness, but you will always get sword of spirits. That's kind of the important one because it sells for a lot of money. Then we're going to run over here, pick up the Revive Scroll and the Ring of Light, because that's, the whole reason that we were here. Set another Blizzard Scroll, and tell Rosalind to go stand in it, because we need her to die too. So, if you've successfully done all of that, we now just need to reach the exit of this dungeon. Now, why am I leaving the summon where he's standing? Well, I mentioned earlier that as long as your active character is far enough away from the enemies in the dungeon, their AI just doesn't activate. That's why. And sometimes the AI pathing is very weird. You can see there are enemies here that are going to attack Joseph, but the fastest path to get out of here runs right past them. So what I'm going to do is tell Joseph to run way over there, and then switch my perspective to the summon, and then I can just sit here and wait roughly... Well, it depends on how far you told Joseph to run. Right now I could wait 10 to 12 seconds. That should be plenty. And he'll be past all of the enemies. If it's a shorter distance, maybe 5 to 7 seconds. Yeah, and there we are. I've gotten past all of those enemies, and now I can manually control Joseph to get out of here. Now there may be some more enemies back by the start of the area that I'm going to want to avoid, so that's why I'm not sending the summon away. Now, another part of this mechanic I should mention is that I've kept my party in solo mode this entire time, and that's important, because if the summon is too far away from Joseph, it will just despawn instantly, unless you're in solo mode. So right now this summon is so far away that if I left solo mode, it would just instantly despawn. So it's important right now that I am still in solo mode. Alright, so I'm going to switch to a low camera angle here and see what the enemy situation is like. Hopefully there are none by the exit, and there aren't. I'm still going to switch to this so that the one that's chasing me will fall off. There I'm just going to toggle solo mode. The summon's gone, and now I'll be able to leave as soon as I reach the exit. And as soon as I exit, my entire party is revived. And I'm going to try to be clicking on single points as much as I can to get out of here with the most movement speed I can get. There are some areas where I'm going to click and drag just because it's easier. Right here, I'm going to try to click on the ground that's way up there, while the camera angle still allows it. The camera in this game is kind of strange. It shifts its position and its angle based on what direction your character is currently moving. Like you can see, it's pointing down more right now, and it tilts up as soon as I'm moving. And that can throw you off a little bit if your character stops when you're not expecting them to. So a lot of the speedrun, at least in areas like this, is just awareness of your camera. So we're done with this area for now. I'm just going to exit back to the world map. And then we get to run back to that first town. Now again, you shouldn't get any random encounters on the world map, because this run shouldn't take any more than 20 seconds. But if you do, or if you're worried about it, you can quick save and quick load while you're on the map, and that'll reset that timer. Or if you get one, or if you're worried about getting one, you can quick save pretty much as fast as you can press the key, or you can hold it down, but that's a really annoying sound. And then if you get a random encounter, you can immediately quick load out of it. This time coming back, we get a cutscene, which I'm just going to exit out of because it's skippable. And we get to run all the way back to the palace. Alright, so I mentioned before about your movement speed inside of... your movement speed when you have multiple party members. Here, if I click and drag, this is about my movement speed. If I click a single point, it's much faster. It's pretty noticeable. But in some places it's unavoidable. In this area I am trying to click on single points as much as I can, though there will be situations where I'm clicking and dragging to get myself across a loading zone. Not every loading zone will allow you to click a point on the opposite side of it, so that's why I'm doing that. This one does allow it. You can see I'm clicked up there. Here I'm using the high camera angle to get a specific sight line through a window up here, kind of between those guards. I didn't manage to actually click on a point between them, but Another one that allows it. And the loading zone up here is going to allow that too. But for this staircase, I'm going to use clicking and dragging just because it's significantly easier than actually clicking on the staircase. There's another forced dialogue with this character that I quick save and quick load to skip. I'm going to run over here. This forced dialogue I'm going to walk into because, well, I need to. It's only a couple lines. We get a cutscene. I'm going to send Joseph to talk to Sornahan over here. It's going to spam through his dialogue. He's going to tell me about an item that I need to get in order to enter the city of the Kosani later. As soon as his dialogue is done, I'm going to hit tab twice to get Rosalind because she's going to be the closest to the Queen over here, who I also need to talk to. Queen's dialogue is pretty short. While I'm in this dialogue, I'm going to start holding shift because I'm going to do shift tab to switch to Fleece because she's closest to the exit. As soon as I see the end of this dialogue, which is right after Tancred, I'm going to switch to Fleece and start running out. Again, clicking on a point on the first floor through that little gap. And I'm going to make a quick save before I hit this loading zone because for whatever reason the game during the speedrun loves to crash right here. Fortunately right now it didn't crash. But while Fleece is running, you can mess around with these menus while a character is running without them stopping, so that's what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to equip Backstab on hotkey 1 and Pick Lock on hotkey 2. Backstab's not going to be very useful in the run for a while, but Pick Lock is going to be pretty important fairly soon. Okay, lots of running now. Get to go up to the temple, which is over this way. Another area where you can conveniently click pretty far away. Click on a point near the top of the stairs. I'm going to switch to the high camera angle just for the sight lines to click through that doorway and then over the top of that wall. Just so that I never actually stop moving. Okay. Right here, there's a little trick. This camera angle's not great for seeing what's going on. This gate opens up. Now, you can't go into solo mode in this area, at least not right now. So what I'm going to do is tell Fleece to run to the other side of the store. And then I'm going to use the interact key to close the door as soon as I'm running through it. And that's going to trap the rest of my party by the exit. So she comes up here, talks to this guy, asks about the blade, hit more one time, and get the red dialogue. You can just exit. I'm going to switch back to Joseph and leave. Another little trick with camera angles and clicking far away. If you've got the low camera angle, you can just barely click on a spot that's on the far side of that loading zone, and then you can just let Joseph run the rest of the way there. There's a loading zone just on the other side of this bridge, and this is one that I cannot click on the far side of. So I'm going to have to click and drag to get there. Oh, it actually did let me. Strange. But it helped that I also stopped moving, which probably made it much easier to actually click on a point that he could run to that would hit the loading zone. In a speedrun, it's not realistic you're going to be able to click that one. You're going to have to click and drag to get across it. Alright, so I've got the Blade of Taruman that the one guy told us about that we need in order to get to the city of the Kosani. Now I'm going to get a map that we need in order to get through the swamp in Ikemos. Running through this area can be a little bit annoying because there are so many tight corners, particularly up here. I want to talk to this guy. He's only got 3 lines of dialogue. 1, 2, and 3. Click on the door and go through. This is another area we're not supposed to be able to split up the party, but that's what I'm going to do by switching party members like this. So that Joseph will talk to this lady, tell her we need a map. Going to tell us where to get it. I'm going to switch back to Fleece and go talk to this guy. And here we're going to sell pretty much everything up here until we reach the Tome of Revive. We want to keep that. And we're also going to go to the bottom and sell the citrine. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and leave this area. So the woman in there told us where we can find a guy who will sell us a map for the Ikemos swamp. That's where I'm headed now. And kind of the hardest part of this area is just managing the camera. This is another point I'm going to try to split up the party. I'm going to send Fleece this way. And hopefully I've got another party member who didn't get stuck anywhere. And I'm going to send this one to go talk to this guy, spam through his dialogue to get the map, and then we're going to go into Buy Potions menu. And then we're going to buy Meteor Scrolls. Now, how many Meteor Scrolls do you buy? Well, it's roughly 30-something. They cost 75 apiece, and I spend roughly 3,000 gold on them. So the way I figure out how many to buy is I look at how much gold I have, subtract about 3,000, and that's where I want to end up. So roughly 8.3 thousand is what I want to have. And I just start spamming buying on the Meteor Scrolls. I get down to about 83. It doesn't matter if you're a little under or a little over. And then you switch back to Fleece, who is right at the exit now, and go to the next area. Right here is where I like to switch back to Joseph. You can do that as soon as... You can actually input the switch character command just before the loading screen ends, and you'll sort of immediately be on Joseph on this side. Just because it's slightly faster for him to run to the exit, because he spawns the farthest forward of anyone in the party. You can also get stuck on things because the AI pathing in this game is weird. I should also note that the game does tend to accept some commands while you're still on the loading screen, because the area in front of you is technically loaded. Now you may wonder, how can you tell where your mouse is on the loading screen because it's not actually visible? Well, if you're like me, and you're using DXWND to run the game in windowed mode, your mouse cursor is going to get outside the game. Like it just is. And whenever that happens, your regular mouse cursor becomes visible on top of the game. Like you can't see it right now because I'm not capturing it with OBS. Let me change that real quick. But yeah, you can see this is what I'm actually seeing when I'm running the game. I should probably leave that up. So I've mentioned random encounters, and they become really important right here. Except that the first one I'm going to get right now is not random. It's a forced encounter with the... what is it? It's not Phoenix, is it? It might be Phoenix Rider. No, it's not. Anyway, not really important right now. The first overworld encounter that you get after you've collected the Ring of Light in Iona is going to be this encounter. Even if you quick load out of it, it's going to keep happening. It's the only one you can get until you've completed it. So I run over to this mountain, which is the next area I need to be, and here we get the rider. Now that first cutscene is skippable, but the rest of the cutscenes with the rider in this area are not skippable. But this fight is the reason why we bought Meteor Scrolls. So I'll show you this fight. And usually you should be able to get by with just 4 for the first phase. Now, Meteor Scrolls are a blessing and a curse for the speedrun. They're a blessing because they do tons of damage, but they're a curse because they target randomly. Now, you can get lucky and all of their projectiles will hit the enemy or the boss and you'll kill it very quickly. Or you could get extremely unlucky and they'll all hit your party instead of the boss, which is bad. Now, the quickest way to exit this encounter is to kind of turn around to the right and run over here. Okay, so now we have actual random encounters again. But this is my least favorite part of the speedrun right here, because you have absolutely no control over it. We got that item from the guy in the temple, and we need to show that to one of the Kosani people for them to allow us into their city. So normally, the loading zone to enter their city is right here, but it's not there right now. Because what needs to happen is I need to get a random encounter with some non-hostile Kosani in it, and talk to them before they'll let me in. But this one is actually a random encounter. You just have a pretty good chance of it being that encounter if you're running around on the mountain. There's also a chance that you'll get other random encounters. And another thing about random encounters, like I mentioned before, the minimum amount of time you can be on the map before you get one is 20 seconds. But after that, 20 seconds is not the maximum amount of time you can be on the map before you get a random encounter. It goes up at increments of 10 seconds. You could get one at 20, 30, 40, 50. I think the longest I've gone without getting one is a minute 10. And, that's just awful for a speedrun because, you want to get one in only 20 seconds and have it be the right encounter. But you could also get extremely unlucky and run around here for over a minute, then get the wrong encounter and run around here for a minute again before you get the right one. So I just run around in a circle and hope. I also like to make a quick save. A quick save sometime after the fight with the horsemen. So that if I get the wrong encounter, I can quick load out of it and not be in a position before the fight with the boss and have to do it over again. So this is the correct encounter. If you see these 3 guys and one in the middle has dialogue, you've got the right one. We just spam through his couple lines of dialogue, we get a cutscene, and now we're inside the city of the Kosani. I'm going to spam through this dialogue. Then as soon as this dialogue ends, I'm going to quick save and quick load. The reason I'm doing that, there's a doorway way at the other end of this area. And normally you'd have to wait for this NPC to run all the way down there and then open the door. But if you quick save and quick load while he's running, the door starts opening immediately. And you just don't have to wait for it, or wait for him to run. Now the other thing I'm going to do is split up my party a bit. I'm going to tell Joseph to run way up there, and I'm going to try to keep the rest of the party back here for a little while. Why am I doing that? Well, there's some forced dialogue with this NPC who's running. if part of my party is outside near where he is, once this dialogue is done, I'll talk to him straight away. Just like that. So as soon as I finish this dialogue, I'm going to quick save, quick load again. Because there's another door that we would have to wait for this guy to run to. I'm going to switch to the high camera angle because that's what I want in the next area. Alright, so now we're in the Labyrinth of the Kosani. I'm going to switch to Joseph, go into solo mode, draw my weapon, and skip the animation. Now I went through all that very slowly, just to explain all of it happening, but you can see roughly how quick I would normally do that in a run. Takes a little bit of getting used to go through all of those commands quickly, but it's definitely worth it.
I am a clever one.
So this dungeon is mostly puzzles, and luckily for the speedrun, all of the puzzle solutions are the same every time. We go to the left, we hit middle, and then the end. Over here, as I'm running past this, I'm just going to use X to interact with this one, and this one. And then we just have to hit the middle one over there, and we're through. Now right here, I'm going to tell Joseph to run to a point down there, and then while he's running, open up this menu again, and equip the other summon that I've got since we picked up the Ring of Light.
I grow powerful.
Now this is the main combat part of this dungeon. A whole bunch of enemies are going to spawn, but only if I walk in this central area. But there's something else I'm going to do instead. This is one of the skips in the speedrun. First thing I'm going to do actually is open up the character menu. That's R to open and close that menu. I'm going to have Joseph level summon up to 7. I'm going to have Fleece get lockpick up to 4, appraise up to 5, and then I'm going to dump the rest of my points into backstab. I'm going to have Rosalind get fire up to 7. I'm going to have Jekar get heavy arms up to 6. Then I'm going to use this summon. I'm going to place it pretty much right underneath this door. So what's going to happen when I do that is that the summon is going to spawn inside the door, and once it spawns I'll be able to walk out the other side of the door without actually having to complete this roam. But while that summon is spawning, I've got a little time. I'm going to go to Rosalind and have her equip Wall of Fire onto a hotkey. I'm going to switch back to Joseph. I'm going to switch to the summon as soon as it spawns and run out the other side of the door. Then we get to this puzzle. I just have to hit that one, and that one. Normally I just hit X as I'm running past these two, but I'm clicking on them for demonstration purposes. And depending on which way those blocks are oriented, this pathway spawns in. And the puzzle in this room is just to hit these buttons in the right order. It's top right, top left, back right, middle right, back left, middle left.
I am a clever one.
We're very near the end of this dungeon. We just have to run through this area. There are some enemies here, but they're pretty slow. They aren't really going to be able to hit me with anything, as long as I keep moving. I like to make a quick save as I'm running down this stairway. Alright, you just skip that cutscene. As soon as I'm here, I'm going to switch out of solo mode. I'm going to open up this menu and banish the summon. Switch to Jekar, draw his weapon, and have him run over here to attack the boss, and then I'm going to put one Blizzard Scroll right under the boss. So between the other 3 party members and the Blizzard Scroll, the boss is going to die pretty quickly. That's happening. I'm going to go back into solo mode, have Joseph run over there and pick up that item, and then get to the exit. And then we play the waiting game for the first phase of the boss to die, then the character to pick up the ring that was under the boss, come back out of solo mode, and do the summon again underneath this door. So once that starts, the animation starts, I'm going to have my party run towards the exit, and then I can leave without actually finishing the boss fight. Next, I'm going to run over here. I'm going to try to split up the party again. I want one character to be up here, do some shopping, and I want another character to be running to the exit. I'm going to talk to this guy. He's the merchant. These are the two things I picked up in the boss fight. I'm just going to come over here and sell them. I'm going to buy 30 icicle tablets, which conveniently adds up to 3,000. I'm going to buy 4 more Blizzard Scrolls, and then I'm going to spend all the money I've got left on Inferno Scrolls. You can tell the rhythm on my clicking got a little bit off track there, which is why there were little gaps in the sound effect of buying spells. But then once I'm done shopping, switch back to Fleece and get to the exit. And then we run to Ikamos. And now there's a similar situation with random encounters. Because I've got the Ring of Fire now from that last dungeon, there's only one random encounter I can get at this point, and it's another forced fight with a horseman. I like to do a quick save, quick load as soon as I get across this river, and then I should be good to make it all the way to the next area without any random encounters. I'm just going to wait until that appears. I'm going to click on the far side of it, and then get ready to click the button here. Here we get a cutscene, and a whole bunch of things I'm going to do very quickly once I enter this area. I'm going to go to solo mode. I'm going to draw my weapon and tell Fleece to run that way. I'm going to switch to Rosalind, put up a wall of fire, which is why I hotkeyed it. Switch to Fleece and tell her to keep running. Switch back to Rosalind. And then we're good to go. So I'm putting the other 3 party members in that wall of fire because I need all of them to die. And that's just the most efficient way to do it. Now, it's very fortunate for the speedrun that your magic spells have friendly fire damage. And Wall of Fire is very effective at killing off your party, especially at low levels, and realistically your whole party is going to be severely underleveled for pretty much the entire speedrun because we're not killing hardly anything, or completing any optional objectives. There's another mechanic happening right now that I haven't actually had an opportunity to discuss yet. A whole lot of enemies have just been ignoring me as I run by. Why is that? Well, that's because these 2 are chasing me already. So in this game, there's a maximum number of enemies that can just naturally be aggroed onto a single party member, and that's 2. There can be more if you actually deal damage to additional enemies, then you can be attacked by more than 2 at once. But as long as you're not attacking anything, if you've got 2 enemies following you, every single other enemy that you run past is going to completely ignore you. And you can see these 2 are attacking now because one of the other ones got stuck somewhere and wasn't still following me. What I'm going to do right here is I'm going to get close to the exit. Normally in a run I wouldn't pause here, but I'm just going to open my inventory. I'm going to use 5 Inferno Scrolls, and that should kill everything that's close to me. 4 and 5. No, it didn't hit that one. Unfortunately, I have to do this again. But as soon as I use all those spells, I immediately start running towards the exit. I don't know why my camera's spinning. I immediately start running towards the exit because even though they haven't gone through their death animations, as soon as their health bars are empty, they are dead. Here at the start of this area, I'm going to draw my weapon, go into solo mode, make a quick save. this is one of the most tricky areas in the run, along with the next area. There's 2 enemies up here. I'm going to try to avoid them as best I can. If I get lucky, they run to the side like that, and I can just go past them. If they don't run off to the side, then you're going to want to use an Inferno Scroll as you're running past them so that they're stunned out of actually attacking you. But this spot right here is the reason why we leveled up Lockpick, and we put it on hotkey 2. I'm going to use hotkey 2.
Success.
I'm going to use X and open that door. Now normally in a speedrun I do use the in-game pause for this part.
Success.
Just because there are a lot of enemies running around that can cause problems. I'm going to run into this little spot here and kind of get stuck. I'm going to use the interact key. For this one, you could use X or middle mouse button. Again, I mentioned that earlier. Both of those are functional interact keys. I'm going to pick up the Sword of Maiming because that's the closest thing. I'm going to do it again to pick up the Brazen Dagger. Then while I'm still standing here, 5 more Inferno Scrolls. Because that's enough to kill all of the things that are close to me. And then I'm going to run towards the exit. And if anything chases you to the exit, 5 more Inferno Scrolls. Now you can do a quick save right there, and that will sort of confirm whether or not anything else is attacking you, because if you're still in combat, it's not going to let you quick save. When we get to this area, this is one of the biggest reset areas in the run, which really sucks because it's like 40 minutes in. Now here I'm going to go to solo mode, draw my weapon. I'm going to use this Tome of Revive that we've been holding on to since Iona to revive Rosalind and Joseph. And while they're reviving, I'm going to run this way. I'm going to slow down to make sure that first enemy actually does chase Fleece this way. If that enemy does not chase Fleece, he's going to kill Joseph, and that's very bad. You don't want to have that happen because you can't effectively revive him again. Okay. So once Fleece draws those 2 enemies over this way, I'm going to run right up to this one, use 5 Inferno Scrolls. I'm going to click down here because it's just the easiest ground to click on, and drag to have Fleece run up here to pick up this item here, which is the Argent Dagger. Now, and you don't want to pick up this, it just clogs up your inventory. And that's just an item that these enemies can drop. But ideally you want all 3 of these to die so that Fleece can easily get back out. I'm just going to tell her to run over here where these enemies are going to kill her. Once I do that, I'm going to switch back over here. Joseph is going to summon the elemental again right there. Have Rosalind run forward a bit, make sure that her weapon is drawn, because it's a problem if it's not. Now we're sneak past those enemies there. Now this is kind of a tricky part. So this enemy is blocking this doorway, and I'm going to try to use the knockback from Inferno Scrolls to push him out of the way just enough for Rosalind to slip through. And it's really important, 1, to have your weapon drawn, because if it's not drawn, then as soon as she recognizes she's being attacked, she's going to stop moving and draw her weapon with a really slow animation, and then she's going to die, because she has 1 health right now. The other important part is that you want to click on the ground over here so that she's constantly trying to move up there without you having to click and drag to do it. I'm going to wait for that animation there where the enemy's arms came up or it starts to wind up a swing. I'm going to use 5 Inferno Scrolls. Oh, it didn't quite move enough. Alright. So that did not go well. Probably because I was spending a lot of time explaining it, so we'll have to do this again. Unfortunately, there is no backup strat for this. If it doesn't work, you're losing time, and that's all there is to it. Alright, so we slip past these however we can. Run past here. Okay, so as soon as you're through, that's when you're going to want to click and drag again, because there is another enemy right in front of this door that you want to get past. You ever come up here, and right behind this enemy is the Kubrick dagger, so you just grab that. Switch to the summon. Now if you want to play it safe, you can wait for her to die, and you can make a quick save here, which is probably a good idea, because this part is sketchy. I'm going to send the summon this way, and you're going to try to get into this little room here. Now if you get unlucky, you can end up stuck in this doorway and die. And that's why we make the quick save. Normally I don't make that save while actually doing runs, and I probably should because I lose a lot of runs here. So whether or not you're actually able to get through this door is highly dependent on what the enemies do. Once you grab that, you come back to Joseph, switch out of solo mode to despawn the summon, and run to the exit. So here I'm drawing my weapon, going back into solo mode, and I like to make a save. I'm going to run forward and to the right to get those two enemies to notice me, so that the ones in these couple of rooms won't notice me. What was the point of all of this? Well, we've picked up 4 different daggers, and those 4 daggers are the keys to this statue, which opens the door to the boss of this dungeon. Now, couldn't I just put a summon under that door and run into the boss room? Yes, I can, but the boss doesn't spawn, and you can't kill it if you do that, so... Unfortunately for right now, we have to do things this way. I'm going to run around the statue just holding down the X key. It's going to make a really annoying sound, but it's going to be the quickest way to actually interact with all of the locks. I have to be a little bit careful because I'm running around with 1 health. Here we get the boss cutscene, and my entire party is at 1 health. That's not ideal, but it'll be fine. I'm going to tell Joseph to run up there towards the boss. I'm going to tell Fleece to run closer to the exit. And I do normally pause the game when I do this so that all these commands get through appropriately. So once Joseph runs up here, I'm going to use 9 or 10 Meteor Scrolls, and that should kill the boss, and will probably kill off most, if not all, of the party, except for Fleece, because she's out of range of the spell. Okay, Jekker survived, so I'm just going to have him run over here, grab all of this, which includes the Ring of Stone. That's the important one. And you could use a Meteor Scroll, or you could use a Blizzard Scroll, doesn't matter which. Just tell Joseph to go stand in that spell. Switch to Fleece. I like to make another quick save here. I know that there were 2 enemies chasing me as I came into this room. They might be right on the outside of this door, and if they hit Fleece, she will die. Yep, there they are. Yep, and she did die because the spells didn't go off before their attacks did. And that's why I make that quick save. That's just something you have to be aware of and be ready for. Now, I'm not going to actually be able to heal myself at all for the rest of this area, so you have to be a little bit careful. But as long as I don't run too close to any enemies, then it shouldn't be anything to worry about. As I run very close to an enemy as soon as I say that, but those little imps are very slow and they have a long animation of getting up off the ground before they can actually attack, so there's really no danger of them actually hitting you. This one's a spellcaster, used a lightning bolt, but as long as you're running full speed as you go by it, you're out of range and it won't actually hit you. Run behind that one so that it can't hit you. You'll have to turn before it can swing. Same thing with this one. And then these 2 should chase me all the way to the exit, so everything else is going to ignore me. I could try explaining the route that you have to take to get through the swamp, but really it's just something you kind of have to memorize. Get close to the exit. You do have to be careful doing this. All of the spells you're using are actually the Inferno Scrolls. If you use a Meteor Scroll, you can die and have to go all the way back to the start of this area. When we're back to the world map, we've got all our health back. Everything's fine. Now I just have to go back to the main city. So at this point in the story, we've collected all 4 of the rings. I'll switch to Joseph and have him run straight forward. Another forced dialogue there that we're just going to quick save, quick load out of. And then I'm going to run over to this merchant. I'm going to sell the Sword of Maiming and the Nodachi. We got the Sword of Maiming when I picked up one of those daggers, and the Nodachi, I believe, was dropped by the boss. And then we're going to split up our party again. Specifically, I'm going to tell Joseph to run way over here. And I'm going to tell Fleece run over here. So Joseph is on his way towards the exit, and Fleece is on her way to another merchant. So from this merchant, we're going to buy roughly 10 or 11 Tristan's Libation, 10 or 11 Drithen's Brew, maybe 5 Invisibility Draughts, 25 Cleansing Tonics, and 10 Health Tonics. So once we do that, we switch back to Joseph. The exit's over there. And we're out. Alright, so we're back in the sewers again. I'm going to start solo mode, draw my weapon, and have Joseph start running. The rest of the party is going to have to die before I get to the exit, so we'll work on that in just a second. I'm going to run over this way a bit to try and get some of these blue guys to chase me, because they're much easier to deal with than the red guys. Tell Joseph to run really far. Rosalind puts up a wall of fire again. And then tell the rest of the party to stand in it. Now, this is a fairly short run through the sewers because we just don't have all that far to go.
No!
Sorry, Jekker. This is our exit. I'm going to stand here by the door. The enemies catch up. These blue ones should die to 5 Inferno Scrolls. Now, unfortunately, some of the blue ones got stuck, and I've got a red one. And that's unfortunate because these red ones are totally immune to fire, or rather they get healed by fire, which means I have to use some of these icicle tablets. And that's quite a bit slower, because you have to manually target all of them. If you get very unlucky, you might have 3 of these red ones, and that takes forever to deal with. Once they're dead, you're back into Tancred's Haven, and again, I'm going to try to split up the party, and I'm going to turn my camera to the right. Why am I doing that? As Joseph needs to talk to a certain NPC, and it's just easiest to do that from this camera angle. So I have him go through all of this character's dialogue. As soon as that's done, I'm going back to Fleece, and she's going to talk to Iago over here in this corner. And then she's also close to the exit, and we can go. So within the story here, our party has gone down to just Joseph and Fleece. And the other 2 have other things they need to be doing. Joseph needs to get to the other end of the sewers again. It's a bit longer run. Just trying to take the corners as sharply as I can. For Fleece, she needs to die again. I'm just going to use a Blizzard Scroll and have her stand in it. You could also use a couple of Meteor Scrolls, but I think the Wizard Scroll is a little bit easier and a little bit faster. It takes longer to kill her, but we have plenty of time while we're running, so it's not a problem. Again, for this part of the run, I want some of these blue enemies chasing me instead of any of the red ones. So I'm going to tell Joseph to run up ahead. I'm going to use my Icicle Spell on that one, and on that one. That's going to get their attention so that they chase me, and now all of these other ones should ignore me. Well, we just need to run down here. And then once we get there, wait a second for the enemies to catch up. And then 5 Inferno Scrolls should be enough to kill all of them, and I can leave. Unfortunately, your camera angle when you come out of there is always terrible. And it always swaps you out of solo mode. So you're probably going to have to adjust your camera before you can move, and you're going to have to redo solo mode so that you have your full running speed. Now there's these 2 enemies here. They're not really a problem because they're very slow. Now you have the option here of using one of those invisibility potions. They don't make you completely invisible, despite what it looks like on the screen. Enemies can and will still detect you. I'm coming up right here. This is going to seem strange. I'm going to run right in front of this enemy, and I'm going to hug this right wall as best I can. And if you do that correctly, that enemy's AI will not be flagged as being in combat before you get here, and the game is going to let you leave. If you take even a few tiny fractions of a second too long to reach this exit, the game's not going to let you leave because it's going to say that you're in combat. Again here, I have to put myself back into solo mode, draw my weapon, skip the animation, and then we get to run. The nice thing with a lot of the enemies in this area is that they are extremely slow. They're not going to be able to catch you or keep up with you or even realistically hit you at all. I like to make a quick save as I'm coming around this corner just to make sure nothing is chasing me. I'm running off to the right here because I only want to deal with this one enemy. And it should be 7 or 8 Inferno Scrolls. 7. He died from 7. I'm going to make a quick save, nothing else has noticed me yet, and get to the exit. And here's why I make a quick save. My game crashed. Alright. Try that again. In this next room we get a boss fight. This is one of my least favorite boss fights in the entire speedrun because it's extremely random where he's going to run to. So ideally I want him to start running pretty much as soon as I can see him, and I want him to run off to my left. Because that's just the easiest and fastest way to deal with him. If he runs somewhere else or gets stuck, then things can get weird, and you can lose a lot of time. There's a cutscene I can skip. I'm going to switch my camera to low and run forward. There's another cutscene I can skip, and there's the boss. Okay, that's perfect. He's running left. Which leaves him right about there. And ideally, he should end the first phase after just 4 Meteor Scrolls. Which did not happen. But he's pretty low, so 1 or 2 more. And then the second phase should also die to 4 Meteor Scrolls. But also my health is very low, so I'm going to use one of these health tonics that I bought. I'm gonna use more than one, actually. Because again, Meteor targets randomly. Just like that. The boss lived and both of my party members died. It's unfortunate, but it can happen. He's running to the right, which is still mostly okay. See, that was much better. Pretty much all of the meteors hit the boss. Again, this is the blessing and the curse of Meteor Scrolls. They do a ton of damage, but they don't necessarily hit what you want them to hit. Okay. So fortunately, this cutscene is unskippable. But fortunately, it's very short. The one right after it, however, is skippable, as is that one. Alright, so now we're effectively in... I mean, that's about half the speedrun right there. So you could say we're in the second half, but I think of the second half more of once I'm back into the areas I've been in before. This is sort of like the middle of the run. But this is the place where I'm going to use one of these invisibility draughts. And like I said, they don't make you totally invisible. Enemies can still notice you, but they're slower to notice you, and it's much easier for them to lose track of you and stop chasing you, which is important right here, because there's no way to sneak past that first enemy. But because I'm invisible, he's not going to be able to follow me effectively. I'm also going to take a sharp turn to the right here, which should break the line of sight with him, just in case he actually wasn't lost yet. And there's also another enemy up ahead that could be walking sort of in the middle of this hallway. He was not there, but walking along the right wall avoids him. We run to this golem, and we go to the upper level. Here I'm going to draw my weapon and skip the animation. And I'm going to get that enemy's attention on purpose, because I want him to chase me. I'm also going to slow down up ahead when I get to a little corner here, because I don't want this enemy to get stuck trying to follow me around this corner. Okay, so I'm going to run up here. I'm going to try to sneak by in front of this enemy. I'm going to grab this key. I'm going to Inferno Scroll, just to stun those enemies out of hitting me. And now I don't care if they get stuck somewhere and lose track of me. But the main reason I wanted the one to follow me around this corner is because if he doesn't, he'll start patrolling back towards this main elevator. And if he's back here, then I'll have to kill him before the game will let me talk to the golem to move the elevator again. So it is just in general faster to drag him with you and then have him get stuck far away. From there, I want to go to the lower level. You can also see when I clicked on the golem to talk to him, it didn't happen right away. Fleece started like slowing down. That's because she was doing the animation to put her weapon away. That was why I opened and closed the menu again right there before I talked to the golem. I hit X just to open that door around the corner. Open this door. Now we needed to go to that hut on the upper level to grab a key that opens that door I just went through. I think also this next door in front of me. There's another enemy here that I can't avoid. Didn't do it. 9 should. Did. Also, you might be wondering, why did I have to put my weapon away again right there, even though I didn't draw it? Fleece actually did draw her weapon. When I started fighting that one enemy, he just didn't really notice it because I was opening my menu to use the spells anyway. Okay, so Joseph is back in my party now, and I'm going to immediately go into solo mode so that he stays there. I'm doing that because there's another enemy patrolling this hallway, and there's a good chance that he will notice Joseph and will be stuck in combat, which I don't want. That's also why I'm taking this detour, just to avoid that enemy. It's faster to do the little bit extra running, rather than actually have to kill the enemy. Here I'm going back to ground level. Now if you're familiar with this game, you're not supposed to be able to leave from ground level because the big gate is going to close as soon as you get close to it. But if you remember that boss fight we skipped early in the run... Oh boy, that's bad. If you remember that boss fight we skipped early in the run by switching characters, I'm going to do something similar here. I'm going to tell Joseph to run to the far side of the gate that's going to close, and I'm going to switch to Fleece. So because I'm controlling the character way over here, that door is not actually going to close, and Joseph's going to be on the other side of it. I have Fleece use 3 Meteor Scrolls to die, and then Joseph is free to run to the exit. That's actually a huge skip in this area because the other path to get out of that tower is very, very long. Okay, so once you're out of the tower, you go to Woolong right here. And this is sort of one of my favorite areas in the speedrun to do. Because this area is like the Catacombs in Iona, except that there's much less combat and enemies that you have to deal with for the most of it. This is sort of like a non-hostile town where you're trying to split up your party, except you can actually use solo mode to do it, so it's really nice. I'm going to tell Joseph to run over there. I'm going to tell Fleece to run over by that guy. And the reason I did the pause is because there's a patrolling enemy here that I don't want Joseph to have to deal with. And if I had stopped to explain all of that without pausing, then the enemy would have seen me. So I'm going to talk to this guy. He's going to tell me about the potion that I need to make in order to get Joseph's left hand back. If you don't know what I mean by that, it's part of the story that Joseph lost his left hand a little bit earlier, right before he was imprisoned. I didn't need to talk to this guy that much. So he tells me about fish and how he needs a certain type of fruit to bait the fish. And then when Fleece is running towards a different NPC, Joseph is going to come and talk to this one. This is Rosalind. She's going to be rejoining our party here. I'm going to exit and re-enter solo mode just because Rosalind will not... Rosalind will follow Joseph as though we were not in solo mode unless I toggle it off and back on again. Okay, so what's happening is that one NPC told us we need a bunch of ingredients for the potion, so we have to run all around this area to collect them. So Fleece talked to the one guy about fish that I need, and I'm going to talk to this guy. I said we need the rice bowl of someone who got their revenge. We get that. Then I'm going to tell her to go over to that NPC, who is going to give her the fruit. Joseph ran over here, where he's going to pick up this box, which I'll need later. I'm going to tell him to run over there. And go back to Fleece. Tell this guy I need some fruit for the fish guy, and he gives it to me straight away. I'm going to tell Fleece to run back to the fisherman. Joseph has an enemy to deal with, but he's just going to run over there. And the enemy is going to lose track of him because I'm now controlling Fleece. Again, you get to what kind of treat, then you tell him I do have fruit. And then he gives you the fish and takes the fruit. Now we want Fleece running that way. We want Joseph to talk to this guy. And we need the knife of a widow. He says, sure, you can have it. And now I get to the trickier part, because now Joseph has to run past enemies that will try to kill him. So if I do everything right, I should be able to get through this area without ever having to actually draw my weapon. This is the guy whose box we found. He can be hard to click on. Tell him need charcoal, give him the box. He gives us the charcoal. I'm going to have Fleece use a Blizzard Scroll and die. While Fleece is dying, I'm going to have Joseph continue running forward. Unfortunately, I got stuck and he had to draw his weapon. Now I come back to this guy, tell him I've got all the ingredients. You can accidentally refuse to drink it, and that's fine. You just keep clicking and then you will drink it. And realistically, we've got all we actually need and we could just leave, but we want another item that this guy gives us, which is the Tears of Usaman. As soon as we've got that, we can exit, and again, Blizzard Scroll, and Rosalind will die. So that completes the fetch quest for this area. Joseph drank the potion that the guy gave to Rosalind, even though I'm totally across the map. Don't worry about it. It just works. And we just have to get to the exit, which is up all of these stairways. I'm just going to switch to the high camera angle now, because that's pretty much what I'm going to be forced to use for the entire following dungeon. Then we get to the Caverns of Woolong. Switch back into solo mode. Do not need to draw my weapon, because I'm not going to be using it. And here's where I'm going to use the Tears of Usaman. Now what are the Tears of Usaman? They give you invisibility. 3 times. Why is this different from the invisibility potions that I said earlier don't really work? Well, this one does work. It makes you completely and totally undetectable by all enemies. And you can use it 3 times. And we're going to use it all 3 times throughout the run. First time we're going to use it is right here, because the enemies in this area are a huge pain to deal with if you don't. This area is pretty straightforward right now. It turns into a bit of a maze later, but we skip most of that by doing this skip right here. So this right here is a secret door, which is not a very well kept secret because it's glowing as soon as I put my mouse cursor over it. And it's also not very effective as a door because there's a gap on this side of it, but only if I'm moving just right. I'm going to slowly pan my camera to the left. That was very quick. And I'm going to be able to slide through the gap in that door. And then as soon as I'm through it, you saw me hit X once. That activated a lever that opens the door completely. And then I also picked up an item that was sitting there that I'm going to sell later. Alright, so now I've skipped most of this dungeon, but I still have to backtrack through it a little bit to pick up one more thing. It's actually mandatory for progression. Again, I could try to explain exactly how you get through this part, but it's mostly memorization. You want to go to the left of this rock, to the right of this rock. Lean left a little bit, so you go left of these blue plants. You can go to the right of these pillars. And then you should get to this area where there's yellow plants. You use X to grab one, and then we turn around and go right back the way we just came from. It's much easier going back, because you just go to the left of this rock, and then it's pretty much a straight line. Now there are some enemies up ahead here that will be sort of a problem when I'm trying to leave, so I'm going to kill them. Luckily they have very little health and are weak to fire. I'm just going to use 2 Inferno Scrolls on each of them. And then I talk to this guy. As soon as I talk to this guy, the Tears of Usaman wear off and I'm visible again, but that's not really a problem. After I've talked to him, I run down this way. I'm going to turn my camera around before I get there, because I need it facing this way now. So now I'm going to have Joseph draw his weapon, because I'm going to have to drag a couple of enemies with me all the way out of here. So I'm not going to use another charge of the tears to get back out, as that would be a waste. I want these 2 kind of blue soldiery guys chasing me. And what's going to help with that is I'm going to kill off the rest of my party. I'm going to use a Blizzard Scroll again. Tell both of them to go stand in it. Okay. Now I'm going to swap out of solo mode. And that's going to make Joseph run slower, which is actually a matching speed for these 2 enemies. That's important because I don't want either of these enemies to get stuck on anything or lose track of me, because if that happens, then these enemies start to attack me, and that's no good. So these Minotaur enemies have a ton of health, they do a ton of damage, and they can hit you from extremely far away. And then you get affected with slow, and you probably die. One last time I want to see both of these guys. Now I should be close enough to the exit just to not worry about it. Now if I get very lucky, those 2 enemies will fall off, or get stuck somewhere just before I reach the exit, but not before I get too far away for anything else to notice me. No, something is still chasing me. Get to wait for it to show up. Only one of them. 4 Inferno should kill it, and then we can leave. Alright, so what happened inside of that cavern is Joseph's left hand was healed, and that's important because he needs his left hand in order to summon. And we also gained the Ring of Water, which means that we have a summon, which I'm going to equip. I'm also going to take this time to level Joseph's fire to 7. Go back into solo mode and draw my weapon. So all of that needed to be in solo mode so that my running speed when I'm clicking and dragging is the maximum running speed. And draw my weapon so that when these enemies attack me, I don't have to stop and go through the animation of doing it. Then I can tell Joseph to run down all these stairs, and while he's moving, I'll open up that menu and equip Wall of Fire to my 3rd hotkey. And a big reason why I want to click and drag to move through this area is because it's much easier to dodge the enemies this way than it would be if you're clicking on a single point. It's also a little bit of a relief for your hand because my hand starts to get a little bit stiff around this point in a run. So any little breaks where I can let my hand rest are good. This guy you can sneak past on the right. Like I mentioned earlier, these enemies, specifically the guys with axes, are extremely slow. They cannot effectively chase you, and their startup animation is so slow that there's really no risk of them actually hitting you either. Little gap right there you can squeeze through. I'm on my way towards a boss fight right now. It's a fairly easy boss fight. Before I get there, I'm going to summon the blue imp right over there. Skip the end of the summon animation and run towards the boss. I'm going to get a cutscene. I'm going to run forward again, and I'm going to start spamming Inferno Scrolls. I like to do 5 at a time. There's a meteor. So what I'm doing here is I'm using 5, and then I'm sitting here and looking at the damage numbers go up above the boss's head. That tells me when all of the spells actually hit. Also keeping an eye on his health a little bit. That should kill him. Alright, then we get the cutscene. And now the cutscene teleports us way back up onto these stairways. But that's why we put the summon way down here. First I'm going to tell Joseph to run up there. I'm going to tell Rosalind to run not as far up there. I'm going to switch to Rosalind, who's going to immediately die. And so I'm going to tell Joseph to put a wall of fire under Fleece. I'm doing things a little bit out of order. It's a bit more optimal to start moving the summon first, but whatever. Someone's going to come over here and talk to Jekar, who is very conveniently standing way down here by the exit. And I'm going to prepare to toggle over to him as my active party member by holding shift. I just spam through this dialogue. Switch to Jekar, I'm going to tell him to run over there. Switch to Joseph and use a couple Meteor Scrolls so that he dies. When Joseph dies, the summon automatically leaves my party, which means that now Jekar is the only surviving party member and can exit. Make a quick save there just in case the game decides to crash. There. Now we get to the next part of Woolong. This is the shopping trip in Woolong. This area is no longer hostile. I cannot go into solo mode. I'm going to tell Joseph to run forward towards this gate. And then I'm going to tell him to run way over there. I'm going to switch to Fleece and tell Fleece to run way over there. So Fleece needs to get to this merchant and then sell a bow of piercing and 2 short swords that we've picked up. And then I switch back to Joseph while he gets over to this merchant. And from this one I'm going to buy 1 Elixir of Recovery. I'm going to buy 30 healing elixirs, which is conveniently 30,000, so I'm going to go down to 56,000 gold left. Or 55, as long as you're close it's fine. Meteor Scrolls I need to buy roughly 8,000 gold worth, so I tend to go with 9,000, just to make sure I have enough, because I have run out before and that sucks. So I'm going to buy these until I'm down to 46,000 gold. And then Inferno Scrolls. I need to buy 11 or 12,000, so I'm going to buy these until I'm down to 34,000 gold. Why am I buying so many spells right now? Well, because these spells have to carry me through the rest of the entire game. Okay, so I exit that. And come back to Fleece, who was running towards Joseph, but conveniently running towards Joseph also was running towards the exit, because she hadn't made the corner yet. We just have a run to the exit, and we're out. Alright. Then we go to Liangshan. Again, I need to quick save, quick load on the world map somewhere. I do it usually right as I'm crossing that river, just because that's a nice visual cue. Liangshan's a little bit of a tricky area in the speedrun. I'm going to switch to Joseph, go solo, throw out my weapon, switch to the high camera angle, and I like to make a quick save. Game kind of froze for a second there. Now it's going to seem like I'm running in a weird path here, but I'm doing it this way to avoid getting the attention of any of these enemies, because they can be really annoying to deal with if they start chasing you. Luckily, they have very poor vision, so you can sneak past them relatively easily. Now, the mechanic of this forest is that you are poisoned the entire time that you're in it. And nothing you can do can cure that poison until you reach the end of this area. What I'm going to do right now is run into this spot, hit my hotkey to summon the imp, and I'm going to summon it just on the other side of this river. And as soon as Joseph's arms go down, that's when I'm going to go into my inventory, because this is no longer going to cancel the summon, just the rest of his animation. I'm going to use that elixir of recovery. So that's going to have Joseph's health continuously regenerate while I'm in this area, which is important. Because if I don't do that, he will, die. Now I've got this summon on the far side of that river, which is also poisoned. And that poison is going to take away 24 damage every 10 seconds. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get these two enemies to chase me so that all the rest of them will ignore me. And I'm going to try to take the cleanest line I possibly can to a bridge that's up ahead, because on that bridge is a cutscene trigger that's going to teleport my entire party. So the summon only has to survive until I reach that bridge, and it's a pretty close thing. It'll be one poison tick away from dying when I get there. No! Alright, so there's the cutscene. I'm going to skip it. I'm going to have Joseph heal himself, because if you get very unlucky, this horseman will run up, hit him twice, and he'll just die. So I'm still in solo mode. I'm going to tell Joseph to just immediately run away. The horsemen are going to kill off the rest of your party, and then by the time they're done doing that, they're too far away to notice Joseph. But I am going to get the attention of this one imp and have it chase me to the end. Which is just up here. So there's a forced dialogue here that I'm going to run into. Use the inventory to put away my weapon. First thing I'm going to do is cure poison, and then I run through all of this guy's dialogue. Now, one thing I want to be careful about is that I do not move once this dialogue ends. Or that at least I don't move towards that enemy. So that enemy is going to switch its aggro onto that guy, which is exactly what I want, and I'm going to put a wall of fire under him. So this is a fairly significant skip for this area. Now, normally you're supposed to defend this guy and his shrine from like 3 or 4 waves of enemies that are coming to attack. After that, he'll give you the Ring of the Forest. But if he dies here, then you can loot the ring off of his body. So that's why I'm dragging the enemy here. The enemy will deal a bunch of damage. The wall of fire will deal a bunch of damage. And then I'll be able to loot the ring and leave without going through those waves of enemies. Also going to have Joseph put a summon down.
I grow powerful.
Alright, something died. Well, someone's going to come up here and loot the body. I'm going to switch back to Joseph. Toggle solo mode to despawn the summon and leave. So then we get the overworld one more time on this continent. The game has 2 continents, don't worry about it. And we go to the Jade Temple, where we have the fight with Emperor Murad. I'm just going to run over here, we'll get a cutscene. Spawns 2 horsemen, and I'm going to deal with them using Inferno Scrolls.
I am stronger.
Sometimes one of them lives while the other one dies. Yeah, they both died. Now I'm going to summon the Celestial Samurai. And while that's summoning, I'm going to switch to Fleece and start running towards the boss fight. Now I have the Celestial Samurai instead of the Imp, even though the Imp was hotkeyed. Well, the Samurai runs a little bit faster. That'll be important after this boss fight, because here we get another cutscene that teleports the party into this room, except for the summon, which is still outside. and so I need to stay in solo mode in here, because if I don't, the summon will despawn. But the Emperor that I'm fighting is standing right here. Normally I do pause the game here. I'm going to go in my inventory and use 10 Meteor Scrolls. Now if I get lucky, the boss will die from those 10 scrolls.
Avenge me!
Or if I get insanely unlucky, Joseph will instantly die to the Meteor Scrolls, which is a problem because then I can't use the summon for the skip afterward. This is extremely unlucky. I'll try only 9. What is... The Curse of Meteor Scrolls. Okay, so he didn't die. If you also get unlucky, he will teleport away. Okay, so this phase of the boss deals a ton of damage. He can just one-shot you with a melee. I'm going to run Joseph behind these two party members. I'll heal him if I need to. I'll use a consumable that boosts his defense if I need to. But as long as I'm close enough for Inferno Scrolls to hit, I'm just going to spam Inferno Scrolls until the boss dies. Okay. The boss died. You know, as the party lineup changed, because, well, that was a major story event, and the other 3 party members are just standing over there for me to talk to them. But the summon is still standing outside, which is much closer to the exit. So instead of running all the way out here with Joseph, I'm just going to switch to the summon and run over here to this NPC that I have to talk to. You just kind of spam our way through a dialogue until you get to how will we get to Sanavar? And after that, you want to move the mouse down to the second option and say, yes, we will leave now. Alright, so now we're truly into the second half of the game. It's not necessarily half of the runtime of the speedrun left, but we're into basically the second half of the game. So we go through all of this dialogue. A bunch of story stuff. These people are upset because the original 4 rings that we found got destroyed. And they want me to go and talk to their leader again. And again, I'm going to try to split up the party as best I can. So ideally, Fleece should be way over by the exit while Joseph is over here going through all this dialogue. The other 2 party members are probably going to run all the way here and catch up with me because this is a lot of dialogue to click through. But ideally, 1 party member should at least be close to the exit. Just to skip a whole bunch of running back. And this part of the game is pretty much revisiting areas you've already been to that are now significantly changed. So Joseph was imprisoned for several months, so it is now winter here. And I'm just going to be doing some quick saves and quick loads to avoid any random encounters. Now you can quick save and quick load like I just did there, or you can do something like this, where you're just quick saving every second or so. And then whenever you do get a random encounter, just load out of it. There's a bit of a risk to this though, because if you save on the loading screen, there's a chance that you quick save inside the random encounter, and we'll have to find another way back out of it. Alright, so the first place they told us to go was back to Iona. You can see it's snowing now. And this is a bit of a tricky run. There's 2 melee enemies there. I want those 2 to be the ones that are chasing me through here, just because that way the archers won't be shooting me. Then I get up here, and this is where I'm going to find Iago. I'm going to talk to him, open and close my menu to put away my weapon straight away. And so all we're really doing here is spamming through his dialogue, and then we need to run to the exit again. Alright, so they all need to die so that I can leave. I let that one hit me right there while I stood still, just so that I wouldn't get the slow status effect. I'm moving kind of wide around a lot of these enemies because if anything that's chasing me gets stuck somewhere, one that I'm running past now might turn and attack me, and they attack just fast enough that they can hit me. I'm just making sure to keep a little bit of distance from them. I'll wait for these guys to catch up. 4 should be enough to kill them, they're weak to fire. So, in the story, the people in the city of the Kosani said that I had to go to Iona to steal back some scrolls that the people of Iona stole from them so that they can make new rings. But we get to Iona and find out that the scrolls have already been stolen from Iona. They're in the palace in Linnell. So we have to go back here. Then we get another little switcheroo of the party. In that now I've only got Jekkar and Rosalind, which is a little unfortunate because they're the 2 slower characters in the game. Okay. She did not use Wall of Fire even though I told her to, so she'll just have to use some Meteor Scrolls to die. And I can see the city is snowy and destroyed. And several months have gone by and, well, demons have taken over. There's also very different enemies in the sewer. Those red enemies from before aren't really here anymore, so I don't have to worry about them too much. You know, little demon invasion, it happens. Alright, so we get these 2 enemies chasing me. They look a little bit intimidating, but they're not too bad. The only thing that's really annoying about them is that they can get these random huge speed boosts and go flying out in front of you. And they're really hard to dodge when they do that, but luckily that doesn't happen too often. Alright, so I'm going to stop here and They should all die from 8 Inferno Scrolls, and they did. Okay, so normally I do immediately pause here because, well, it gives you this terrible camera angle. And also there are 2 enemies right here. And ideally I don't want to have to fight them or get hit by them. But on the other hand, those 2 enemies have about the same movement speed as Jekkar, and they're going to chase me all the way to the end of this area, which is going to let me run past everything else. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to talk about in this section, it's just kind of running to where you need to go. You just have to memorize the right path. There is one item I have to pick up while I'm in this area, but I'll mention that when I get to it. Alright, so right up here on the ground is a Ring of Mastery. I'm going to want that for later in the run. It looks like one of those original enemies that was chasing me got lost somewhere, but we picked up a different one. You might wonder, why didn't I use any of those Tears of Usama on here if they make me totally undetectable? Well, because there are better places to use them. Fortunately, that does mean that I have to kill a few enemies here by the exit. Oh, a whole bunch of stuff saw me now. Ghost Jekkar, where are you running? Okay. Normally when you get here you only have to kill the one on this side and you can slip through before anything else sees you. Okay, so this is sort of a double boss fight. If you remember Sornahan and the Queen from earlier in the game, they're the enemies now. Effectively, they betrayed the king and sold out the entire country to the demons. And now we get to go kill them to steal back the scrolls that they took from Iona. So again, right at the start of the area, I need to switch back into solo mode and draw my weapons so that I can run immediately and not get hit by any of these enemies. I'm gonna skip that cutscene. I'm gonna wait for these guys to run up. And sort of the gimmick of this boss fight is that Sornahan is immune to physical damage but weak to magic, and the Queen is immune to magic damage but weak to physical. I'm going to start the fight using Inferno Scrolls. That's going to kill these guys who are charging up and attacking. And it's also going to kill Sornahan. I don't want that. I don't want that. That one I want. He drops a whole bunch of stuff. One of the things he drops were the scrolls, but he also drops Warrior's Plate Mail, which I'm going to equip. And then, all the way back in Woolong, we picked up this Eversharp Katana on the way out from the boss fight that we did there before the forest. I'm going to equip that now. But I'm also going to switch over to the screen, the level up screen, and level sword weapons up to, I guess, 10, because I leveled up more than I thought I would. Normally in a run it would be, you'd be able to get it to 9 and your heavy arms would be at 6, so that's what I'll go to now. Also still got this guy chasing me, so I'm just going to kill him. And now I'm going to use one of these Druthan's Brews that I bought, and what these do is they give you extra physical damage. So there's some other things going on in this fight. The Queen, when you hit her with physical damage, sometimes you'll bounce back a few steps, and that makes the fight really slow. What I'm going to do is every time I see a damage value pop up over her head, I'm going to hit this menu screen and come back out of it, and that should totally negate the bounce back while still dealing damage. Like that. This is not going well. She's actually dodging and blocking every single swing. And sometimes your swings also just don't hit. It's taken so long that the boss fight music ran out. Okay, that was a terrible fight, but it was proof of concept anyway. If you get lucky with the damage rolls, you can die really fast. Also, I got out of there very easily because I think a lot of the melee enemies followed me farther in, so there was just nothing attacking me when I was on my way out. But normally you do have to deal with more enemies on your way out of there. Alright, but now we've stolen back the scrolls that were stolen and stolen again. And I need to take them back to the Kosani. I'm going to switch to Joseph and then run and talk to this NPC. And give her the scrolls, which they're going to use to enchant the rings so that we can recapture the demons. And they tell me that the Demon of Fire is down in the Kosani Labyrinth, which is where we got the Ring of Fire to begin with. Only it's, again, going to be sort of destroyed. And also my sound effects have kind of stopped, so I'm going to restart the game just to avoid a crash. Alright, so this place has also been destroyed, but this is one of those other places I mentioned. I'm going to use the Tears of Usaman again. Because this place is crawling with enemies, and trying to drag two of them with you all the way to the end is not realistic because they get stuck everywhere, and you get hit by all kinds of things, and it's just not good. So instead of all that, we're going to use the Tears and just run past everything. Luckily this time we don't have to solve any of the puzzles either. Sometimes you can get stuck on those guys. Okay, now we get to this boss fight. I'm going to tell everybody to go and attack it. I'm also going to have Jekar use a Tristan's Libation, which is going to boost his damage, or boost his defense. I'm going to switch to Fleece, and I'm going to level up screen, and I'm going to get backstab all the way up to 10, and I'm also going to put all the rest of my points into Trip, and that's going to be important later. I also, happens every time I do this run, I forgot to equip the Ring of Mastery, and she has to identify it first. It gives her more maximum ability points, which allows her to use backstab more before she runs out. I'm also going to equip the Sornahan dagger, which, as would make sense, was dropped by Prince Sornahan, but that has significantly more backstab damage than other daggers. And I'm also going to use the Drithen's Brew for extra physical damage. Now it looks like I got extremely unlucky, and the boss is just staring at Fleece and ignoring everyone else. And that's bad because it means I can't backstab. As would make sense, you can only backstab from behind an enemy. And that was a completely abysmal fight. Just instantly. Let's try that again. I'm gonna let the rest of the party run over there and actually start fighting it before I have Fleece move. I think that was the problem before. So, why am I going in and out of a menu here? It's not actually working really. There's a cooldown on the backstab animation that menuing is supposed to skip. But for whatever reason it just kind of wasn't working. But that's why we level up backstab and get the dagger and use the potion, because it deals tons of damage and kills that boss really quickly. That's the first of the 4 demons defeated. Now we just have to go do the other 3. I wonder where they could be. First thing though, we need to talk to this guy, because he'll actually give us the rings that we need in order to trap the other demons. He gives us the Ring of Light and the Ring of Stone. Says one of them's not ready yet, and we'll have to come back for it later. So, the Demon of Stone is in Ikamos, so that's where we're going to go first. At least that's where I go first. The other runners who used to run this game always went to Iona first. It doesn't really matter which one you do. It's the same speed overall either way. But just like every other place, Ikamos has changed, and it is dry. I'm going to tell Fleece to run. I'm going to tell Rosalind to make a wall of fire. And I'm going to tell everyone to stand in it. Or I'm going to try to tell everyone to stand in it. Something went horribly wrong. Let's try that again. Oh, I'm dumb. I didn't go into solo mode. That's what went wrong. Here we go.
Avenge me!
Unfortunately, I have a stone guy following me, which I don't like, because they're extremely tanky and hard to deal with. Also, Jekker survived. Right, I don't know what's actually still chasing me that's keeping everything else from... Oh, there we go. Something fell off. Alright, this is why we buy the cleansing tonics. This is why we buy the cleansing tonics. Please, please move. So again, for this enemy, roughly 8 Inferno Scrolls will kill it, and then I can go to the exit. And here we get the next demon. I'm gonna go back into solo mode and leave the rest of my party by the door, because to fight this boss, I'm going to use exclusively Meteor Scrolls. Now, why would I not use Backstab like I did with the last boss? Well, because it doesn't work on this one. You just can't do it. So here I'm going to use 20 Meteor Scrolls. Now, a whole bunch of those are going to hit Jekker and kill him, but because there's only 2 targets here, most are also going to hit the boss. Use another 20. And if everything goes well, the boss should die from 40 Meteor Scrolls. Sometimes it takes more. But ideally it should take 40. Again, I'm going to leave the party back there. They're all revived because the boss died. But I'm going to start Fleece running towards the exit. I'm going to find a spot up ahead here where I can tell her to run a reasonable distance, and then I'll get the rest of the party to die with a Blizzard Scroll. Unfortunately, I have a stone guy chasing me again. What I'm trying to do there is use an Inferno Scroll as I'm running to kind of stagger them, and if it works... it should break aggro range from them. I don't actually think it worked, but it's worth a shot. Also another one right here, probably going to start attacking me. Oh, actually made it out. Okay, so next I go to Iona. We're going to fight the Demon of Light. Now this one I can use Backstab, but this is also my least favorite demon boss because it's just all over the place. Alright, so ideally I'm going to try not to get hit by anything and slowed, but the run through this little area is also kind of a nightmare. As the enemies get stuck everywhere, you don't really have a way of knowing when they're getting stuck, and then the ones that you're running towards will just hit you as you're going by. It's not good. And sometimes you just get stuck like that. Alright, but in here is the next boss. It's going to trigger a cutscene, which is going to teleport the whole party. Go back to Fleece and use Rhythm's Brew. send my whole party down there first, and of course they're going to be idiots and not actually attack the boss, they're just going to walk past it. Please do the backstab. This is pretty good positioning because I've also got a height advantage, so I'm getting a 40% damage bonus. And now he's specifically targeting Fleece, so so much for backstabs. Well, the only real backup is switch to using Inferno Scrolls. This is why we buy tons of them. Alright, now I've got control of Fleece again. And the boss teleported. It's entirely random where he teleports. Okay, that was quite bad. Joseph has the most health, so I'm going to have him run out. Get all of them into a wall of fire so that they die. And have Joseph try to make it out of here. Use that Inferno Scroll just to stagger all of them out of actually hitting me. That one's probably going to hit me. Oh, I got lucky. So this enemy can hit from really far away. That's why I'm taking these really wonky paths to try and avoid getting hit by them. And then I need to kill them. Do it. That did not do it. Okay. So that's 3 of the demons down. And I need the Ring of Darkness before I can take on the last one, so I have to go back to the Kosani to get it. I don't have a timer up right now, so I don't have a way of knowing when I've been on the overworld for almost 20 seconds, so I'm gonna quick save, quick load a couple of times just to make sure I don't get any random encounters. Yeah, I might actually get done with this entire tutorial in less than 3 hours. I was not expecting that. I didn't actually need to talk to him. Switch my camera and tell Joseph to run. There's a lot of memorization for the speedrun. Again, I have to click through all of this dialogue, and I want at least one party member to be close to the exit, because I have to talk to that guy near the exit again. And then, of course, I need to leave. So, now that I've done that, I can go fight the final boss, which is in Linnell. Specifically is in the Temple of Uroth, but it's the same run through Linnell that we did a little bit earlier when we were going to fight the Queen and Sornahan. So the first thing I told Joseph to move, and then while he was running, had Rosalind set up the wall of fire and run the rest of the party into it. I make a point of trying to have Jekar get into the wall of fire first because he's got the most health, and if he doesn't get in there quick, he'll survive like this. Unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier, you need all of your surviving party members to be at the exit area to get out. And even though it looked like Jekar had died because his health bar was empty, the game didn't actually consider him to be dead until his death scream started, which is why I hesitated before I went to the exit. Because if you get to the exit too early, and even though the rest of your party appears to be dead, because that death scream didn't happen, the game will tell you party members are too far away for you to leave right now. Alright, so we're pretty much done with this run. There's no more level ups, there's no more gear, there's no more looting.
I grow power.
There's no more shopping. There is one more Tears of Usamon. So that was the last time that I'm able to use the tears for the entire game. And I'm using it here just to not have to deal with anything in this area. And this is the end run to the final boss. So yeah, there's not a whole lot to say here. This is the exact same route that you take when Jekar ran through here a little bit ago. Only difference is that this time I don't have to pick up a Ring of Mastery. I'm going to make a quick save before this loading zone, just in case. Okay, so strats for the final boss. I'm going to go into solo mode. And tell Joseph to run up there. I'm going to have Jekar use 3 healing elixirs, or 4 healing elixirs actually, and run over there. Have Rosalind use 2 healing elixirs, and run over there. Please use 2 healing elixirs, and 1 Druthan's Brew. Unpause. Draw my weapon once they get over there, so that ideally the boss will be looking at them. He wasn't, but I can kind of manipulate him anyway. With that, one-shots the first phase of the final boss, Backstab and Druthan's Brew. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, particularly if the boss is looking at Fleece. Luckily, he only casts spells in that form, so you just bait him into attacking Fleece, and as soon as his spell casting animation starts, you run behind him and then you can backstab. Here, Fleece, I'm going to equip the Trip ability. And I'm going to again tell all of these party members manually to attack the boss because I'm still in solo mode. Then I'm going to run over there, run behind him. I'm going to use Trip to hopefully knock him down. Worked. And then backstab. Okay, that's unfortunate. I also forgot to use the Druthan's Brewer. That might have one-shot this phase as well. That's fine. Even if you don't one-shot this phase, the backup is just to trip him and do it again. Of course, I can't click on him to attack because my party member's in the way. And he is murdering Fleece. And there's also a random chance that when you trip him, you'll get knocked down too. There's absolutely nothing you can do about that.
No!
This has been a horrifically bad final boss fight. Like, this phase should have been done in one hit, but I'm still chasing him around. Trip him, please. Trip him. Fine, backstab him, please. Kill him with a backstab, please. Okay, that was awful, but still alive. I'm going to heal Joseph and Rosalind just so that they don't die. I'm going to heal all of them just so that they don't die. Alright, back to Fleece. Remember to use the Drithens Brew, and then run off to the side. That's the best way to try and force the boss to target your other party members. And here you're just kind of hoping for good damage rolls on the backstabs. You're seeing like 200, 300. You can get like, you know, there's 891. You can get over 1,000. I think I've seen like 1,700 once. But then after those backstabs, the boss is dead. You have the option to loot this, but there's no point. And then you just run over here, and as soon as the cutscene starts, that is time, and the run is done. So, hopefully if anyone does actually watch this and is interested in learning the speedrun for this game, this has been helpful. Thank you for the GGs. I am actually surprised that was done in less than 3 hours.
And so the enemies of the Summoner, Murad, Sornahan, Galleon, and the 4 demons, were at last defeated. Their ambition to storm the kingdom of heaven foiled. Across Orenia, they celebrated the crowning of their new empress. In Woolong, the festival of the dragon lasted a year and a day. In Lanel and all the towns and villages of Mediva, they rebuilt their kingdom from the ruins of the old. The Kosani gave thanks to Vadagar. The coming of the second chaos had been stopped, and demons would torment them no longer. Now you know how Jakar, crowned the new Duke of Tarimon, founded the legendary House of Galadorn. And how Rosalind formed a new order upon the rubble of the Iona Monastery. And how Chifeng crowned her daughter, Siwa, who ruled as the first queen and empress of Mediva and Orenia. And how Akata from Siran became the god Urav, father of the Sudani, and reclaimed his throne among the white spires of heaven.
Alright, well, that was the run. It's nice to finally have a tutorial.